After Berlin, the journey softens. Not because the road becomes easier, but because the space around you becomes gentler. Berlin teaches strength through structure. Prague teaches presence through flow. Here, the city does not stand rigid. It breathes. It curves. It moves like water between stone and time. The first thing you feel is not order, but ease. Not discipline, but invitation. As if the city quietly opens its palms and says, "You may slow down here." The rhythm changes immediately. Your steps become lighter. Your breathing deeper. Your thoughts less sharp, less urgent. Not because something has been solved, but because nothing is demanding to be solved. Prague does not push you forward. It allows you to arrive. Stone does not dominate space here, it cooperates with it. Bridges do not divide, they connect without effort. Streets do not guide, they accompany. You begin to notice that movement feels different. Not directional, not purposeful, but present, as if every step is complete in itself. This city is not about proving endurance. It is about remembering softness. Not weakness, but gentleness that carries strength without force. You are no longer moving toward something. You are moving inside something. A slower atmosphere, a quieter awareness, a space where attention becomes natural, not forced. Here, history does not stand behind glass. It lives beside you. It walks with you, not as a lesson, but as a background hum that reminds you how long life has been unfolding. Prague does not ask for admiration. It asks for listening. And when you listen, you realize that silence here is not empty. It is layered. It carries patience. It carries memory. It carries calm certainty. This is a city that does not announce itself. It reveals itself only when you soften your pace. The moment you stop measuring, the moment you stop comparing, the moment you stop expecting impact, you begin to feel how deeply this place holds balance. Not balance through control, but balance through trust. Trust that things can exist without tension. Trust that beauty does not need urgency. Trust that time does not need pressure to move forward. After Berlin, strength was carried in posture. In Prague, strength is carried in surrender. Not giving up, but letting go of resistance. And in that letting go, you begin to notice how the body responds first. Shoulders fall. Breath slows. Vision softens. You are not entering a city. You are entering a different relationship with movement itself. This is not a place to conquer. It is a place to inhabit. And as you take your first steps into Prague, you feel something subtle but undeniable. Here, the journey is no longer about direction. It is about depth. Prague teaches that movement does not always need intention because sometimes intention creates tension and tension closes perception while softness opens awareness, and this is why walking here feels less like going somewhere and more like being somewhere, and you begin to understand that presence is not created by effort, it is created by permission to slow, permission to observe, and permission to feel without trying to interpret everything. And as you move through these streets you notice that nothing is demanding your attention loudly, everything is simply available quietly, and this availability changes the way you look, the way you listen, and the way you breathe, because when nothing is competing for your reaction your senses begin to open naturally and you become more receptive, more grounded, and more connected to the moment itself. Prague does not perform, it exists, and in that existence there is a confidence that does not seek validation, because what is real does not need to explain itself, and as you walk you feel that the city is not trying to guide you, it is allowing you to guide yourself, and this freedom feels gentle, not overwhelming, not chaotic, but steady and calm. And when a place trusts you to find your own rhythm, you begin to trust yourself as well. Your steps become more intentional without being forced, your gaze becomes softer without becoming passive, and your mind becomes quieter without becoming empty, and in this quiet space clarity begins to form, not as an answer but as understanding that nothing needs to be rushed, nothing needs to be proven, and nothing needs to be corrected, because this place shows that life can unfold naturally without pressure and still be meaningful, still be deep, still be complete. You notice how curves replace straight lines, how transitions replace boundaries, and how connection replaces division, and through this you feel that balance is not about control but about harmony between movement and stillness, between intention and surrender, between effort and rest. And as your body follows this rhythm you begin to feel lighter, not because something has changed outside but because something has softened inside, and this softness creates a different type of strength, a strength that does not resist but adapts, that does not push but flows, and that does not compete but cooperates. And this is why Prague feels like a conversation rather than a statement, a dialogue rather than a declaration, and when you become part of this dialogue you stop being a visitor and start being a participant, not in action but in awareness, and that awareness becomes the true movement of the journey. In Prague you start to feel that beauty is not something that demands attention, it is something that waits for attention, and the more quietly you move the more clearly it reveals itself, not through scale or perfection but through balance and authenticity. And this changes the way you observe, because instead of searching for highlights you begin to notice continuity, how everything belongs to everything else, how nothing feels isolated, and how even contrasts feel gentle rather than dramatic. And through this you understand that harmony is not created by similarity but by acceptance of difference, and this acceptance brings a sense of calm that does not need explanation. You walk and you feel that history here is not frozen, it is breathing, not displayed, it is lived, and this gives every street a quiet dignity that does not try to impress but naturally commands respect. And as you move you notice that your posture changes, your pace softens, and your attention becomes more patient, because this environment does not reward speed, it rewards presence, and presence feels richer than any destination. And in this richness you begin to experience a different relationship with time, not as something that must be used but as something that can be inhabited. And when you inhabit time, instead of chasing it, every moment becomes fuller, deeper, and more meaningful without needing to be extraordinary. And this teaches that depth is not created by intensity but by sincerity, and sincerity is felt not when something is perfect but when it is honest. And Prague feels honest in its imperfections, in its uneven lines, in its worn surfaces, and in its quiet persistence. And this honesty allows you to relax, because nothing is pretending, and when nothing pretends you no longer need to perform either. And this is where a rare kind of freedom appears, the freedom to exist without comparison, without urgency, and without pressure to define yourself. And in that freedom your breathing becomes slower, your thoughts become lighter, and your awareness becomes clearer, not because you found answers but because you stopped forcing them. And this state feels grounding, as if your inner rhythm finally aligns with the rhythm of the space around you. And when that happens, movement becomes natural, not driven by goals but guided by presence, and this presence becomes the real journey, not the path you walk but the way you walk it. In Prague you feel that time does not move forward in a straight line, it circles gently, touching the past and the present at the same moment, and this creates a sensation that you are not walking through a city but through layers of memory and imagination, where every step carries echoes of centuries without becoming heavy. And this balance between history and lightness makes your movements slower and more conscious, because nothing here asks you to hurry, everything invites you to notice. And as you walk you begin to sense how patience becomes natural, not forced, as if the rhythm of the streets is teaching your body to trust the present moment. And in this trust your breath deepens, your shoulders relax, and your thoughts stop competing with each other, turning into a quiet flow of awareness, where beauty is not something you search for but something that reveals itself when you stop expecting it. And this is the moment when Prague starts to feel less like a destination and more like a dialogue between your inner pace and the world around you, where silence has weight, where stone carries warmth, and where space becomes a form of listening rather than movement. And in this listening you understand that clarity is not built through effort but through presence, because presence allows everything to be seen without distortion. And when things are seen clearly, they no longer demand control or judgment, they simply exist. And this existence feels complete, steady, and deeply grounding, as if the city itself is reminding you that stability does not come from certainty but from acceptance, and that acceptance is the quiet strength that allows both change and continuity to live side by side without conflict, creating a sense of harmony that settles gently inside you and stays long after your steps move forward. For long-distance travel between European cities, reliability matters more than speed, because when your journey begins in Prague and leads toward Berlin, Warsaw, or beyond, what truly matters is clarity, safety, and confidence in every step of the route. And that is why a licensed private transfer service based in Poland operates across borders by prior arrangement, focusing on long-distance travel rather than short local rides, offering professional drivers, clear conditions, and a structured approach to intercity movement, where every detail is planned in advance so your mind can remain calm and your attention can stay with the journey itself. And this service is designed for those who value stability over haste and trust over uncertainty, with routes that usually begin from several hundred kilometers, where experience and responsibility become essential. And if you want to learn more about this service, all details and contact information are available at modlintransfer.com, with the link included in the description, so your movement between cities becomes not just transportation, but a continuation of clarity and balance. In Prague you begin to notice how trust becomes the foundation of movement, not because someone teaches it but because the environment itself feels safe to slow down. And when you feel safe, your attention no longer searches for control, it opens for experience. And this changes everything, because instead of trying to understand the city you allow the city to meet you. And in this meeting clarity appears not as an answer but as a state where questions lose urgency and presence becomes enough. And in that presence even uncertainty feels stable, because you are no longer trying to fix or define it, you are simply allowing it to exist. And this allowance softens your thinking and replaces pressure with calm acceptance, and you start to feel that the city is not offering you direction, it is offering you permission to pause, to observe, and to feel without interpretation. And when you accept this permission, your movements become slower, not from hesitation but from attention, as if each step is already complete and does not need to lead anywhere else. And in this way, walking turns into listening, where space responds gently to your presence, and through this listening you begin to trust the moment more than any plan, because the moment itself becomes enough. And this trust brings a quiet confidence that does not need validation, because it is rooted in experience. And as your breath deepens and your posture softens, your awareness becomes steady, not through control but through release. And in that steadiness you feel belonging, not to a place but to the present itself, and that belonging feels complete, calm, and strong, without force, as if being here fully is all that is required. Prague begins to show you that patience is not waiting for something to happen, it is allowing what is happening to be enough. And this small shift changes everything, because when the present becomes sufficient, the need to rush disappears, and with it the tension of always looking ahead, and you start to notice how your body responds first, how your breathing settles, how your shoulders lower, and how movement becomes smoother, not because you decided to relax, but because there is nothing left to resist. And in this state your awareness opens, and you feel the city not as many separate places but as one continuous presence that holds you gently as you move through it. And you begin to sense that streets and bridges are not directing you but accompanying you, and this creates a quiet sense of security, because you are no longer navigating alone. And in this harmony you realize that clarity does not come from effort, it appears when resistance fades, and when resistance fades experience becomes simple and honest, and that honesty feels complete without being heavy or final. And in that completeness you feel free, not because you escaped limits but because you stopped fighting them. And this freedom is calm, steady, and grounded. It does not push you forward, it allows you to stay where you are and let that be enough. And in this allowance your thoughts slow naturally, and you begin to feel your own rhythm, moving in harmony with the rhythm of the city. And this synchronization feels like remembering something your body always knew, and in that remembrance you feel centered, not by control but by trust, and not by direction but by depth. Prague begins to feel less like a place you walk through and more like a place that walks with you, because its rhythm slowly blends with yours, and you stop separating yourself from the space around you, as if the boundary between observer and environment becomes softer and less important. And this softness allows awareness to grow without effort, because you are no longer trying to control how the experience should feel, you are allowing it to unfold naturally. And in that allowance you notice how your movements become quieter, your posture more relaxed, and your attention more open, not searching for meaning but receiving it. And this shift changes the way you experience everything, because instead of looking for significance you begin to sense it in simple moments, in the way light touches stone, in the way air moves between buildings, in the way silence holds presence without needing explanation. And you realize that nothing here is asking to be extraordinary, it is asking to be honest. And honesty carries a weight that does not need decoration. And as you continue walking you feel that your thoughts stop competing with each other, they no longer rush to define or evaluate, they simply observe. And this observation feels calm, grounded, and complete, as if the city is quietly reminding you that clarity does not come from answers but from attention. And when attention becomes steady, everything gains depth without becoming heavy, and you understand that Prague does not teach through instruction, it teaches through atmosphere, through how it holds time, how it holds memory, and how it holds space without forcing direction. And this creates a sense of trust. Trust that you do not need to rush, trust that you do not need to decide everything now, and trust that being present is already enough. And in this trust you feel lighter, not because responsibility disappears, but because resistance does. And without resistance movement becomes natural, thought becomes softer, and awareness becomes deeper. And this depth does not pull you inward in isolation, it connects you outward to everything around you, creating a quiet harmony where nothing feels separate, nothing feels rushed, and nothing feels incomplete. And in this harmony you begin to sense that the journey is no longer measured by distance or progress, but by how fully you inhabit each moment, because here, being is more important than becoming, and presence is more powerful than direction. And this realization stays with you like a gentle anchor, holding your attention in the now without effort or tension. For long-distance travel between European cities, reliability matters more than speed, because when your journey begins in Prague and continues toward Berlin, Warsaw, or any other European destination, what truly matters is clarity, safety, and confidence at every stage of the route. And that is why a licensed private transfer service based in Poland operates across borders by prior arrangement, focusing specifically on long-distance and intercity travel rather than short local rides, offering professional drivers, clear conditions agreed in advance, and a structured approach that allows your movement to remain calm and predictable, so your attention can stay with the journey itself instead of logistics. And this service is created for those who value stability over haste, trust over uncertainty, and comfort over chaos, with routes that usually begin from several hundred kilometers, where experience and responsibility become essential. And if you want to learn more about this service, all details and contact information are available at modlandtransfer.com, with the link included in the description, so your movement between cities becomes not just transportation, but a continuation of clarity, balance, and quiet confidence. Prague does not end the journey, it deepens it, because after softness comes understanding, and understanding changes how you carry yourself through space, not with caution and not with control, but with quiet confidence that grows from acceptance. And as you walk further, you feel that the city no longer introduces itself, it simply remains with you, like a steady presence that does not need explanation, and this presence makes movement feel honest, not directed by purpose but guided by awareness, and in this awareness your body becomes lighter, not because it escapes weight, but because it stops resisting it, and when resistance fades, harmony appears naturally, not as an idea but as a feeling that settles in your breath and posture. You begin to notice that your steps are no longer searching for meaning, because meaning is already here, in the way your foot touches the ground, in the way your eyes move without urgency, and in the way your thoughts no longer rush ahead, and this teaches that clarity is not something to achieve, it is something to allow, and when you allow it, life feels simpler, deeper, and more complete without effort. Prague shows that calm is not the absence of movement, it is the quality of movement, and when movement carries respect and attention, it becomes a form of meditation, a way of being present without needing silence or stillness, and through this you understand that presence does not isolate you from the world, it connects you to it more fully, more honestly, and more gently. As you continue walking, the city feels less like an environment and more like a companion, not leading you, not following you, but walking beside you, reminding you that every journey is shaped not by distance, but by how deeply you choose to experience each moment, and in this understanding you realize that Prague has already given you something rare, not inspiration, not excitement, but alignment, a feeling that your inner rhythm and the rhythm of the world no longer conflict, but flow together in quiet agreement. In Prague you begin to understand that slowness is not the absence of movement but the presence of awareness, and awareness changes everything, because when you are aware you stop rushing through moments and start living inside them, and this makes even the simplest walk feel meaningful, not because something special is happening, but because you are fully there for what is already happening. And this presence creates a quiet stability that does not depend on circumstances, because it comes from within, and as you move you notice how your body aligns with this rhythm, how your steps become smoother, your breath becomes deeper, and your thoughts become less fragmented, as if everything inside you starts to cooperate instead of compete. And in this cooperation you feel a new kind of strength, not built on control or effort, but on acceptance and trust, and this trust allows you to release the need to understand everything immediately, to label every feeling, and to define every experience, because Prague shows you that not everything needs to be understood to be valuable. Some things only need to be felt, and when you allow yourself to feel without judgment or expectation, your connection to the moment becomes natural and effortless, and this is when the city stops being a place you visit and becomes a state you carry within you, a calm, grounded awareness that moves with you, shaping not where you go, but how you go there. In Prague you start to feel that clarity does not come from answers but from space, from the space where thoughts are allowed to slow down and emotions are allowed to exist without being controlled, and in this space your perception becomes softer but deeper, calmer but more precise, because you are no longer trying to capture the moment, you are allowing the moment to reach you, and this changes the way you experience everything around you, from sound to light to movement, because nothing is filtered through urgency anymore, everything is received with quiet openness, and this openness makes even silence feel full rather than empty, meaningful rather than passive. And you begin to notice that peace is not something you create, it is something that appears when resistance fades, when expectations dissolve, and when attention becomes gentle instead of demanding, and in this gentleness you feel grounded without heaviness, focused without tension, and present without effort, as if the city is teaching you that being fully alive does not require intensity, it requires sincerity, and sincerity is found in the simple act of being here, now, without trying to make the moment more than it already is. And in this flow you begin to notice that nothing here asks you to become different, nothing asks you to hurry, and nothing asks you to prove anything, because Prague allows you to remain exactly where you are in your own rhythm, and this permission feels like a quiet relief, as if your body finally understands that effort is not always required for growth, and that sometimes simply being present is enough, and in this presence your thoughts settle, your breath deepens, and your attention becomes gentle, not searching, not resisting, just observing. And through this observation you feel a calm confidence forming, a confidence that does not come from certainty but from acceptance, and this acceptance becomes the foundation of balance that stays with you even when you leave the streets behind. And as this calm settles, you realize that Prague is not trying to change you. It is simply giving you space to notice yourself more clearly, and in that clarity you feel lighter, because nothing is being demanded, nothing is being rushed, and nothing is being forced into form, and this softness creates a quiet strength, the kind that does not need to defend itself, because it is already grounded in trust, and in that trust you find a steady rhythm that feels natural, honest, and deeply supportive of who you are in this moment. And in this moment you understand that the city is not guiding your steps, it is reflecting your pace, and when you slow down, everything around you becomes clearer, softer, and more alive, as if Prague is reminding you that harmony begins not outside, but inside your own attention.